Okay, so welcome to the section, Module 3, now where you're going to lay out a roadmap for your customer. And in order for you to help your clients get from mission to mission accomplished, you want to lay out a roadmap. So when I went to Africa for a month and I was hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, I took this picture on the shoulder of Mount Kilimanjaro. And hiking Mount Kilimanjaro takes 5 days. That's a relatively faster way. You can do it in 6 days as well. But as I was hiking, I I noticed I was just walking for hours and hours and hours. Literally, it was a total of 50 miles. And going up the mountain is slow going, especially with the altitude. And I noticed I was walking and walking and walking, and I would look up and I see this mountain that's in behind me in the background. That's not the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. That's just a um, small peak that's on the shoulder of Mount Kilimanjaro. And as we were walking and walking and walking, I would keep looking up, and I mean I would walk for hours, and I would look up, and it wouldn't look like I've made any progress, even though I've put out a tremendous amount of effort and exertion. But there was some faith that I was able to have in knowing that if I just kept going, I was going to get to the top because we had a proven path to follow. You could see the path behind me. I could clearly see that's the path. I had a guide. I knew if I just followed the path, I was going to get from mission to mission accomplished and make it to the top. And so it's the same thing for you and your customers. When you know where your customers are going, it's going to make it a lot easier for you to create the information product. When they know where they are going, it's going to make it a lot easier for them to get to mission accomplished. So, in the stage that we're in right now, in creating the overview, by starting with the end in mind, knowing where the mission accomplished is, in other words, knowing where they're going, it's going to just make it much easier for you to create your 6-month premium transformational program for your customer. So, how you go about doing this is you start off with step one. Step one is to begin with your mission accomplished. Now, we created the mission accomplished and your client's mission accomplished in the first module. So you've got your client's mission accomplished already. So we're going to start with what the work that you've already done, and we're going to build off of it. So you're going to take your client's mission accomplished, and from there, you're going to map out how they will get from mission to mission accomplished. Now, when you're laying out this map and you're laying out the way that they're going to get from here to there, you want to do a little bit of introspection. You want to take a look at what did it take you to get from here to there, and how can you create a shorter route? Many times when we've created success for ourselves, we did it in a very haphazard way. It came at great expense, a lot of trial and error, and boy, wouldn't it have been much easier if somebody would have just shown you the way. Well, that's in essence what you're doing here. You're creating the map that's going to help your customers get from mission to mission accomplished and do it in a much faster, easier way than it took you to get there. And so part of that in figuring out how you're going to map out their quickest route or their easiest route or their most effective route, you're going to need to ask yourself, what skills are they going to need to get from mission to mission accomplished? When you've got a 6-month program, it's likely that they need to learn some skills that are going to get them from here to there. And they may need to learn a whole lot of skills, but it's going to be important for you to boil down the essentials. to help them figure out what are the specific skills that they can't do without, and then focus just on those and don't worry so much about the ones that aren't quite as essential. You really want to boil it down to your top three or so skills that are going to be essential for them to get from mission to mission accomplished. The next is to ask yourself, what resources are they going to need to get from mission to mission accomplished? So it's not necessarily just skills. You're going to need resources. There might be other people that they need to connect with who have other resources or other skill sets that they're going to need to access to get from mission to mission accomplished. So for example, in the course that you're in right now, Make Six Figures Working From Anywhere 12-month Mastermind, some of the resources that people need are things like you're going to have to be able to process a credit card account. And you're going to need a resource such as PayPal or WePay. That's an example of a resource that you're absolutely going to need. You're going to need to be able to accept all forms of payment, and that's going to make it a lot easier for you to get from mission to mission accomplished. And then you also want to ask yourself, what tools are our clients going to need that will make their journey more likely to get them to mission accomplished, and in some cases maybe easier or faster. Then once you know what the skills, the resources, and the tools are, now you're going to go and create the steps. What are the steps that the customers are going to need to get from here to there? And what are the steps that they need to build off of? Many times the skills and tools and things that you have gotten from them, gotten them already, build on one another. And it's required that they build on one another in order for them to successfully get from mission to mission accomplished. There are some steps that you simply can't take until you've taken the first steps. So it's important to know what those steps are and put them in order. The other important thing about that is to begin with small steps that are easily accomplished. So about 6 years ago, when I first created the Make Six Figures Working From Anywhere 12-month Mastermind, before I had ever been taught how to create a transformational program, my version 1.0, I went back and I made a long list of what I thought all the tools were that people would need. And I made a kind of an exhaustive list of steps that I thought they needed to take in order to have a successful online business. And our very first step that people began with was creating a very complex funnel that had to do with Facebook ads, a lead magnet, lead pages, and a autoresponder integration. This was a pretty complex first step for many people, and it ended up that it wasn't easy to accomplish. And it ended up, while my heart was in the right place, I was trying to deliver the most value possible, it was overwhelming. My first step was just too big. And in my effort to try and over-deliver, I ended up overwhelming people. And when the first step, or in any particular step, when it becomes too overwhelming and it feels it's not easy to accomplish, people tend to very quickly shut down. They very quickly get discouraged, and they stop taking action. So we don't want to do that. We want to begin with small steps that are easy to accomplish. The other thing to remember is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Your program is 6 months long. No one can sprint for that long. No one can sustain a really high degree of activity for 6 months. If your program is really, really intensive, if it takes too much time, or if it takes too much energy or too much effort from the perspective of your customer, it's going to be very hard for them to sustain. In fact, it most likely will be unsustainable. So make sure that you pace your 6-month program like it's a marathon, because it is. And don't put a sprint in there, or at least don't put a sprint the entire time, because people will burn out, they will get exhausted, and they likely won't get to mission accomplished. So keep the mission accomplished focus on there, and keep that marathon type pace, that nice, slow and steady wins the race pace. The last thing to remember is to keep it simple, which, said another way, is don't give them too much. So again, in my version 1.0 of this program that I started 6 years ago, I simply overwhelmed people by giving them too much to do. And again, it was all coming from the right place. I was intentionally trying to give people so much value, all the value that I possibly could, and it ended up just being too much. And it wasn't until I started subtracting things that the value that people actually got started increasing. And what I realized is that I just had to boil my program down to very, very essential, critical steps that anyone could do. And when I did that, the value went way up. The many, many more people were hitting the goals, were getting to their $10,000 a month, were getting their 11 clients, were coming up with their information program and their online coaching business that they could build and do from anywhere. And it was all because I kept it simple. And the way that we kept it simple was I had to subtract many of the things that I put in place originally and that were too overwhelming to people. So take out your pen and paper, and we're going to do the first exercise. So the first exercise, start out with the mission accomplished. So right now, write down the mission accomplished. Now, you should have done this in module 1. So right now, take out your pen and paper and write down what your client's mission accomplished is. So write that down right now. My client's mission accomplished is, and fill in the blank. Remember, it should be a SMART goal, and the time portion of the SMART goal is within 6 months. And so within 6 months, your client knows that they have achieved mission accomplished when they have achieved what? So take that, fill in the blank there. Next, now we're going to lay out your starting point to your mission accomplished. And so what I want you to do right now is on the left-hand side, write the starting point. Where is your client now? And then what is mission accomplished? And because you have a 6-month program, just take a moment and just do this first pass. This is a brainstorming first pass, version 1.0. Write out what are the 6 steps. Break it down from starting point, from mission to mission accomplished. Break it down into 6 months. And just with your pen and paper, just make a line and make 6 scores across the line. And on the left-hand side, write your mission. And on the right-hand side, write your mission accomplished. And then go ahead right now and outline what you think are the 6 months for your program. Go ahead and do that right now, and we'll see you in the next section.